My video is me and Kyle giving our top 10 favorite moments of FIRST.
How long has it been since you graduated?
4 years.
4 years.
Well, I guess you could say a little bit under because it's not June or whatever it is. So yeah, 4 years.
And you still come around to the kickoff?
Yeah, whenever I have time, if I don't have to go back to school early and whatnot, I'll definitely be there. So yep, whenever I can have time.
He actually went this past weekend when Steven was there with his team that he's mentoring. Kyle went and talked to the team and saw Steven there because they were competing at WPI and he was still there. So he went and talked to the team.
What keeps you coming back?
Honestly, I just really appreciate what this team has done for me. And I suppose in high school, this team is really just what kicked my drive up to do better in school and really achieve, well, you know, what I wanted to do with my life. And I have a lot to thank for everyone that's been involved with this team. So when the time comes, I definitely want to give back to this team and help everyone else.
And and Misty, he graduated.
Yep.
And you still
and I'm still there.
Why? Why?
Well, you know, when he did leave and Sandra asked me to stay on, I told her, well, it's not going to be the same with him gone. And she said, you know what, you might be surprised. And she said, if you stay, we want you to do the youth protection program. And I thought that when they implemented that, that was the year actually after Kyle left, that it was very important. And it was long overdue that FIRST had done that. Putting in these safety measures and making sure people are trained on that. And when she said that, I told her I would stay and do that. And so I think they eventually added me onto the board. And then I became the mentor voice. So I love the mentors. I think they are the team's secret sauce, is what I call them. I know the kids are amazing, but the kids, they come and go. And we watch them come on as freshmen or sophomore and then they graduate and they're gone. But the mentors who have kids that have left and they are still there, these mentors, I truly believe that they're what's making this team so successful because navigating FIRST is difficult. It's difficult to know all the rules and how to work with FIRST and what you need and where you need to be. And by keeping the same people there year after year, it helps you develop a much deeper understanding of how to deal with FIRST and everything that goes on there.
And of course, we always hear, Misty, YPP.
Yes. Yeah, the kids like to use that whenever they think somebody's doing something inappropriate.
Or if somebody's honking, they'll go, Misty, YPP.
That's one of their favorite cheers. Yeah. Like when they say Steve is my hero, they say Misty, YPP.
Yeah. And you do so much for the team, Misty.
I love it. I really enjoy spending time. The kids, like I said, are just amazing. They really are, like, they blow my mind, the things that they accomplish and they do. And like I said, I've made some of the best friends I've ever had on this team, and I love coming back. During the summer when it slows down, I miss it, and I can't wait for it to start back up when it gets close to August. Hi, I'm Misty Sposato.
I'm Kyle Sposato.
And I am a board member for Team 195, the Cyber Knights. I'm also a lead mentor for the mentor voice on the team, which means I'm in charge of the mentors, making sure they are trained and that they are signed up on FIRST and that they are fingerprinted and they go through YPP training. And I'm also the YPP mentor. And YPP is the Youth Protection Program. That is FIRST program that they use to make sure that mentors and students are all safe, and it covers everything from safety in the shop, in traveling, in competitions, all the way up to mentor and student interactions, sexual harassment, and bullying. It covers all of that. So I lead the YPP, and this is Kyle.
Hello, I'm Kyle. I'm currently a student at Worcester Polytechnic Institute. I'm graduating this year in May. In regards to Team 195, I was on the team from the years 2011 to 2014. I was on the programming team, I was the team captain, and I was a human player and a second driver, arm driver, in the years 2014. And we're going to do a top 10 list of our favorite moments throughout the years.
Yeah, we figured we could talk forever about the Cyber Nights. So the best way to keep this quick or a little bit succinct is we're gonna give our top 10 best memories of the Cyber Nights since we've been on there. So my number 10 best memory was when Kyle actually got on the team, when he got accepted. I had tried and tried to get my sons to join the robotics team. My first son went through high school and I never could get him to join. And then when Kyle went to high school, freshman year, I tried to get him to join. And then his sophomore year, I kind of tricked him. I was at the high school for parents' night and he had said that his computer teacher was his favorite teacher. So I asked her if she would tell Kyle to go to the robotics meeting. It was written on the board. So the next day, when he was in school, she told him to go to the meeting, and he did. And that night I dropped him off, he went into the meeting, and when he came out, he wouldn't stop talking about it. And I'll never forget because I was actually up at RIT with my other son when he got accepted, and all of our phones blew up with him saying he was so excited and so happy that he got on the team. So that's one of my first memories, and it was one of my top 10 best memories. So when Kyle did decide that he was going to join the team, it was a time when it was just me and Kyle alone at the house. My other son was up at RIT, and my husband happened to be in Iraq at the time. And so Kyle and I, we really bonded during that time going to robotics. We spent hour after hour at robotics, and it was just the two of us, and we had a lot of fun discussing everything and talking about everything about robotics. And it was really nice to have those people in robotics be our second family, because my husband was over in Iraq and it helped take our mind off of that. But while he was over there, my husband got a group together there with his unit, and they had sent us over a sign telling us good luck at the Hartford Regional. And then when he came back, a group of the kids got a bunch of things together, and we would ship boxes off to some of the soldiers that were still over there. And as you know, to this day, we still work with the veterans and visit veterans and do the meals for the veterans. And so that's been a good part of being with this team, as well as that outreach that we do.
Start with my number 10. This one is about the New England District Championship in 2014. We were at finals match number 2, and the robot's power cut out. This completely stopped us in the match, and we essentially we were the captain of the team of our alliance, so we almost kind of had to accept the loss. And it was a pretty humbling moment in my career on the drive team, I suppose, and on the team as a whole, because we were very used to just constantly winning and winning and winning. So that moment kind of put me in my place and maybe have a more holistic perspective on the entirety of competing in FIRST.
So number 9, I titled it Piggy, Piggy, Piggy. This was in New York at the regional at RPI, is where we were. And I was sitting with Marilyn Call and Ed Berry, and there was a team sitting next to us. And they had obviously been up all night long because a lot of them were sleeping in the stands. And one kid in particular had his head down, he was sound asleep. And when it came time for their team to be on the field, they would nudge him, and he would jump up and he'd yell, "Piggy, Piggy, Piggy," and the rest of the team would say, "Oink, oink, oink." So that entire competition, we started dying laughing. Me and Ed and Marilyn, we were dying laughing. But the whole rest of the competition, we started joining in with them. And to this day, it's a constant joke between the three of us, and sometimes to the rest of the team, because some of them remember Piggy, Piggy, Piggy.
My moment for number 9 is the Southington District competition in 2014. We were in finals match number 3. I was in control of shooting the ball from the robot, the exercise ball that year. And there was one moment we went for a shot, and I just miscalculated the time, and the ball bounced off of the target in such a way that caused it to bounce on top of the truss in the game, if you're familiar with the game, and that truss was completely unreachable by any robot, and essentially the ball got stuck there, and it required someone to come up and shake the truss, and someone had to spend a bunch of time trying to wiggle it off of the top of this giant piece of metal, and it cost us a lot of time in the match, and it was entirely my fault, and it was just a moment I'll never forget, and I was so angry, and there's a video of it, but yeah, I suppose you could say that was a really memorable moment in my drive team career.
Okay, number 8. This one is really near and dear to my heart because when we joined the team and we were told we were going to walk in the Apple Harvest Parade, I asked them, so what do we do? And they said, well, we just push the robot down the road. And I said, we can't do that. We got to do something bigger and better. So the first year, my husband actually drove his pickup truck and we rented a U-Haul, the kind that you just put the lawn mowers and things in the back of it. And Fred Van Scoy helped me decorate that. And my other son wore a blue wig and we decorated it as best as we could. And Fred's granddaughter was in the little trailer and we pulled that through the Apple Harvest Parade. And then I said, next year we're going to have something bigger and better. So sure enough, the next year we got one of the yard metal trucks, and year after year we've gone bigger and better. And of course, with Randy's help, with making the music as loud as possible. And he'll ask me, how loud do you want it? And I said, as loud as you can get it. I said, I want them to hear us over the high school band. I want everybody to know we're coming. And not only that, that first year we had the big truck, we won the best youth group. And we've won that 3 times now since I've been on the team. So that would definitely be number 8 for me.
So my number 8 moment was Jim from Fox News. He is the guy that would sort of just always contact us to try to get us, get some piece in the news about us whenever we won a competition or whatever it was. This was the year 2014, and he really wanted a shot with the ball being shot at him, directly at him. We made sure that this is what he wanted, and he was okay with it, and so he held the GoPro like very close to his face, and he told me to go for it and press the trigger. The ball went at him and knocked the GoPro out of his hand, went right into his nose, cut his nose. That was just really funny. He wasn't mad about it or anything. He was entirely aware of what could happen, but it was a really memorable moment. It was pretty funny.
So my number 7 is a kind of a broad topic, but it's my friends. So these are the mentors who have become very close friends to me on the team. And some of the best memories, I'm trying to remember I can remember so many of them, but one of them was dressing up with Michelle. When we dressed up the year with we were dressed up. I had picked out a dress that I liked, and it kind of ended up being a medieval theme. And then, luckily enough, the game that year was a medieval theme with the castles and all. And one of the best moments was when Michelle and I walked on the field with Jack in the Hat. Some other memories that I've had is like with Bonnie, when we've been in hotel rooms together. And one time she and I were in a hotel room, we were in a bed, and her son was sleeping on the floor, and I think Griffin was in the room as well, and they were trying to sleep, and Bonnie and I were laughing and laughing and laughing. We're watching videos and just, we could not stop laughing, and Evan was like, will you two shut up? And then there, of course, is the time when I jumped into the fountain with Sandra, and just lots of fun with friends I have made, dear friends that I'll have for the rest of my life, like Bonnie and Sandra and Marilyn and Doreen and so many more that I'm sure I'm forgetting. The board members will be lifetime friends, and like Ed and Lance and Gino and others that I could just go on naming, that I have made some of the best friends I will ever have on this team.
My moment at number 7, I have a quote from Damian Florian during the middle of a match. "Oh yeah, did you see that fake out, Kyle?" Of course I saw it. This was in the middle of a match. Damien just confused one of the opponents we were playing against. But I included this moment because it speaks to a larger part of how the drive team works in 195. We were really at the level where we could almost read each other's minds, where we knew exactly what the other was going to do before they did it. And we really have Gino Brino to thank for that because of the amount of practice that we had to put into this. The drive team basically had very limited communication during the middle of a match. If you watch most of our videos, you'll very rarely hear each of us talking to each other. So it was just really awesome to be able to compete in a match and very rarely have to freely communicate with people to try to organize a strategy where, in our case, it was just very free form. We would know what each other was going to do before they did it, and we were able to execute tasks very efficiently. And that's what a lot of our successes come from.
So my number 6 was when we won at WPI, an off-season event, 2013. So that's when I was out to dinner. What happened was our team had won the Connecticut State Champion competition. It wasn't a championship, but it was a competition. And they gave our team tickets to go see a show at the Bushnell. So that kind of came at the same time that I was supposed to be signing us up for WPI, and I wasn't able to get in, and so we weren't actually signed up to play at WPI. We were put on a wait list. And so Gino kept calling to try and get us in. And just so happens the night before the competition, I was out to dinner with one of my friends who's not in robotics, and she said, not a word about robotics tonight, and I promised her I wouldn't say anything, but we were sitting there eating dinner, and my phone went crazy, and I knew what it was. I knew we had gotten into WPI, and she said, fine, just answer the phone, and when I did, it was Gino, and we had gotten in, so the few of us that were not going to the show, we all packed up, picked up the kids the next day after school, and off to WPI we went. And there was a few of us there with me and Gino as the only 2 mentors there. And the kids got to sleep overnight and they had a blast. There was also when Fee was on the goat that night. There was a lot of stories we heard after that. But there was a point when it came down to the last Frisbee and we were sitting there waiting for the final score to see if we won or not. Gino was at the top of the stands hanging out with some people from Gus, and I was sitting at the bottom, and we're all watching and waiting for the score to come up, and when it popped up and we won, Gino came running down the stands. He picks me up and was swinging me around and around, and that's where I got my love for the confetti cannons. It's because the cannons were going off and the confetti was coming down. It was like one of those movie scenes. So that would be my number 6.
All right, yeah, number 6 for me is the notoriously dubbed bumper guy from the New England District Championship in 2014. This was a volunteer. He just kind of randomly came up to our robot when we were in queue and tried to pull the bumpers off of our robot, completely unprovoked. This was just on his own. He just really wanted to test out the durability of our bumpers. He didn't say a single word to us. We were just standing there watching him do this. He came up, tried to take them off, and just walked on when they wouldn't come off. We just really thought this was a really funny moment, and we were just sitting there waiting for it. We've never forgotten it. It's always still been as funny as when we saw it. So yep, that's my number 6. Number 5.
Number 5. So this one I dubbed the trash can robot, and it is probably one of the best moments ever. This was also the Frisbee competition, and we were in Hartford, and we were all kind of laughing because there was a robot there that was literally just a trash can strapped to the robot. And we all thought it was kind of funny. And then we went to pick the teams that were playing with us. That's the robot that got picked as our 3rd robot. And I didn't even realize it was that robot that was picked with us. I just knew it was a team 95. And I'm like, who is that? What is that? Well, my other son was with me, and we were walking through the pits. And I said, let's go find Team 95. They're our 3rd robot for the finals. And we were walking around, and he says, you mean, and I was telling him, there's a robot here that's actually a trash can. And he says, well, I think that's your 3rd robot. And he pointed to it, and I was like, oh my God, oh my God. So we kept joking about it. Well, came down, we made it to the finals. We were standing there, once again, waiting for the score to come up. We were convinced that we had lost the match because it was so close. And somebody goes, "No, look," and they pointed across the field. And at the very top of the pyramid was Team 95, the trash can robot. It had dumped the Frisbees on the top of the pyramid. It had done the only thing we asked it to do, and it actually did it, and we won. And it was just pandemonium when we won, and we all went crazy screaming, but I'll never forget the trash can robot.
So for number 5 for me, it's more of a wholesome moment. So Alex Angelillo and I were in New York City in 2012, and there were some college booths there. You could check them out, get some information from them and such. Like typical college fare. We went up to the RPI booth, and Sandra came up behind both of us and said, I can't remember exactly the words she used, but she basically said, both of you will be applying to this school. And I just look back on that now. I didn't actually end up applying to RPI, but I do go to WPI, and Alex is going to be graduating from RPI. So I just thought it was really cool to look back on that. So it's such an early time in high school and my time on the team. And she essentially predicted what was going to be our future choice of schools. So it was really cool.
We're at number 4. Okay, this one is also the same regional when we were in Hartford that the trash can robot was at. And it was very exciting because at this competition, we ended up picking Team 20, which has become one of our favorite teams ever. And they were near the bottom of the list. And I remember standing there, and when we picked Team 20, they were kind of quiet for a minute, and they were like, did they just pick us? And then when the team realized that we had actually picked them, the whole group just jumped up and started screaming and yelling and jumping up and down. And I remember this one woman, she came flying down the stands, and she grabbed me and picked me up, and she's like, thank you, thank you. And I'm like, for what? And she said, for picking us. And that started a relationship with Team 20 that's still going on to this day. And one of the other things with them was that was back when we all used to paint our faces and dance and just have a great time at the regionals. And we would look over the stands at them down below, and there was a whole group of them that would just be down there dancing and partying and having a great time. And it's a good memory, and it still continues to be a good memory with Team 20.
You were talking about our friendship with Team 20.
Yeah.
And then we got Brendan.
Yes.
The story out of Brendan.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That was an amazing video watching him talk. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome.
All right, so my number 4 top moment is the New York City 2012 win, second place that we had. It was just a really powerful moment in my first career where it really showed me how awesome competing in that in robotics is and how fun it is. And I always remember the one moment where we won a match and Sandra stands up and yells, "We just won medals!" I just always remember that. It was a really awesome competition, and I was so grateful to be there. So that was my number 4.
Okay, so my number 3 would have to be in Waterbury when we won the Chairman's Award. And then it, of course, continued on to the New England District Championship when we won Chairman's again. And it was just such an amazing feeling. I hated that Sandra wasn't there in Waterbury with us, but I had her on the phone, and we were all talking to her on the phone. But what an amazing feeling when we were sitting in the stands and they announced, we started talking about our team, and we knew it was us. And then when we were at WPI, when we won the Chairman's District, and it's so funny because we were so excited. I just wanted to grab my water bottle and just start throwing water all over everybody like you do with champagne. But I couldn't because everybody had computers and laptops open there. But it was such a fantastic feeling, and one of my favorite moments on this team.
So my number 3 moment is the Hartford 2012 and 2013 wins that we had. Really just completing the 3P legacy that we went for. It was just such an awesome, wholesome moment where everyone was just jumping up and down and screaming in excitement and having won 3 times in a row every year. So that was just such an amazing moment. There were tons of videos of it. It was just really cool to have been involved, especially as part of the drive team that year.
All right, so my number 2 has to do with Kyle. And what this is that when he first joined the team and we went to St. Louis that first year, and we were sitting in the stands when the drive team was coming out on the field, and it was just our first time there and witnessing everything that was going on. And I remember him sitting there beside me, and he said, "I want to do that." And he was pointing to the kids down on the field that were on the drive team. He says, "I want to be down there." And I said to him, "Then you need to make it so. Just make sure you talk to Gino and let him know that that's what you want to do." And he did. And the very next year, he's out and he was part of the drive team. And it was always, my favorite time was watching him come out on the field down there and play with the team when you've got over 10,000 people yelling and screaming for you. And they did such a great job, and they were just so serious and calm. And I don't know, I think I'd be really nervous and not be able to do the job, but these kids were so good at it. And it was part of the best part of him being on the team.
So my number 2 was IRI 2014. It was a match against 1114. This is a really crowning achievement that we probably look back on. They're notoriously known as like one of the best teams in FIRST. They're extremely high competitive, and they purposely racked up a lot of penalties against us, and we ended up winning. That match was just, it was a really tough fought, and at the end of it we all just went crazy. There's a video of from a camera attached on the drive station. I think Kyle Berry probably has it, but you can see our reactions, everyone's just going nuts. It was really awesome to have actually come up to the, right to beating one of the best teams in the world. So that was a really cool moment on the drive team.
That was probably one of my favorite moments too, because I was standing with Marilyn up at the top, and and when they won that match, we were all going crazy up there. That was a lot of fun.
All right, number 1.
My number 1, and I know a lot of people, we always talk about this, is second place in New York City at the regional there. And I just remember we didn't come in first place, which means we didn't win enough to go to St. Louis. But we came from, I think it was 52nd, all the way up to number 2. And some of the best parts of that was what Kyle said when Sandra said, "We're going home with a medal." And I also remember we were at the very top of those stands, and they were very unsteady. And Miles picked Kyle up at one point up there at the very top and was like swinging Kyle around. And we were all going crazy. And when they called our team down to get our medals, we were jumping around and screaming, and people were like, "You know you didn't win, right?" And it reminds me of a saying in a movie. It's called Bring It On. It's about a bunch of cheerleaders where the team, they came in second, and somebody came up to the captain and they said, "So, how does it feel coming in second?" And she said, "Well, it feels like first." And I gotta say, that win felt more like coming in first place than any other match I have ever been a part of. And that's my number 1.
So my number 1 is Battle Cry WPI in 2013. I was a human player this year, so I was responsible for feeding the robot, but at the end you also had the opportunity to throw some frisbees to try to get some additional points. So we ended up winning by 1 point after a really suspenseful counting thing that went on with the referees and such. And of course, as previously mentioned, they had tons of confetti everywhere and the lights were going. And I remember I went out onto the field and I held up the driver's station in the air, and Fee came up behind me and picked me up and held me in the air. And it was just a really totally fun, awesome moment. Yep.
So one of the things that I brought to show you, just to show you how meaningful this has been. This is Kyle's graduation flyer that we sent out to invite people to his graduation. And that's the picture we put on it. So this team means a lot to both of us.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Thank you, Mom.
I can't believe I made it to the end without crying. I was worried I would start crying because I cry so easy. Oh my God.
Well, now you're going to have to cry now because I need it for the video.
No, I have an ugly cry. My nose will get all red, the makeup red.
Oh, no. Every room inside is filled far away.
I couldn't believe when we looked back there in the road. That was just
The special things I can buy you, each one there to make you smile. On a rainy day, they can say it all sounds crazy. They can say we've lost our minds. Well, I don't care if they call us crazy. Run away to a world that we design. 'Cause every night I lie in bed, the brightest colors fill my head. A million dreams that keep me awake. I think of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see. A million dreams is all it's gonna take. A million dreams for the world we're gonna make. However big, however small, let me be part of it all. Share your
Okay, that was
dreams.
really hard.
You may be right, you may be wrong. Say that you'll bring me along to the world you say. To the world I close my eyes to see, and close my eyes to see. Every night
Oh my God, I'm beside myself. I'm so excited.
brightest colors fill my head.
Yes.
A million dreams to
And
keep
we really
me
want to
I think of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see.
Yeah, I love
A
you guys.
million dreams is all it's gonna take. A million dreams for the world we're gonna make. For the world we're gonna make.
You
It
guys
was
were a side
awesome.
picture.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
That was great.
I like the top
Thank you.
10 thing.
Yeah, that was great.
That
It was
great.
funny how I had 2012 in New York is my number one, and WPI I think was number 4, and Kyle had it like
Swapped
just
out.
swapped
Oh, was
it.
it?
Yeah. And we didn't discuss before we got there. I had my list here, and we met up.
My number one was that second place win in
Yeah, that was awesome.
That just that was
It was
amazing.
so neat to see you. You came with your list. You were ready.
Yeah. There's been so many, like it must have been hard to come up with just
It was.
10
It
because
was.
there's just so many amazing memories. you
My
know?
first thought before this started, I'm like, wow, how do you come up with 10?
I know.
Yeah.
It was the only way I
It was
think I could do it without like sitting there and just talking about the team. I would just start crying.
It was nice to hear Kyle's perspective though, like what were those little moments that, you know, there's a lot of moments us mentors know about, but what that showed me is there's all these little memories we don't see and we don't know that these kids experience, which
Yeah.
makes it so special.
It is. And the other thing that, and it's funny because mine were kind of broad, his were very specific.
Yes.
And one of the other things I found out that he did, he told me later on, that little secret Facebook
Yeah.
thing group they have, he actually went out on that group and they were chatting about what would be
What
their
should be.
top 10.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I thought, like, really?
Cool.
Yeah. So they all talk. And
Thank you for putting these together.
Yeah.
Oh, you're
It's
welcome.
They mean a lot to our team. They really do.
Oh,
As you can
Yeah.
see, I mean, everybody loved the one
Yeah.
today.
yeah.
It's just so
Yeah.
nice to have these memories. And when I'm really, really old and I'm in a convalescent home, I'm just gonna be on YouTube reliving this life through your videos.
I usually tell people when I wear diapers, I'll be watching this video.
I know the video that you made from this weekend. I was going to work. I'm like, what's this video? And I was making everybody watch it.
I sent it to work too. I sent it to. We have 42 people on my team. I sent it to everybody.
Oh, yeah, I know. I've been, since January, I've been working on video non-stop.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I've been needing a haircut real bad. I don't have the time.
I told her it's addicting. When she's
You're gonna make a career out of this.
Yes.
And that's between work, because I work from home. I answer a phone call over the phone interpreter. So in between, that's what I do. And when he comes home, dishes are not done.
I comes in the morning.
Yeah,
In the morning, she's there, I come today.
Yeah. And then 1 hour come, the registration expired. We could not register because I forgot to pay the tax.
Oh my goodness.
Well, one of the things is when you're doing this, you just get so
get lost.
immersed
Yeah,
into it
yeah.
that time just becomes, hours become minutes.
Yes, exactly.
And you're like, 4 hours later, you're
It's
like, it can't be this time.
Right, yeah. And I try not to do it at nighttime because I forget the time. There are times I looked up, it's 2 or 3 a.m.
So we're not only the crazy ones.
No,
So
no.
I watch your videos
Yeah.
over
And over and
Yeah.
over.
Because every time you watch it, you notice like another little nuance. in it, so.
Yeah, I know. I do the same thing. Like today, I was so tired. I actually took a nap, and I play one of the video and repeat, and that's what I fell asleep with. Yeah. You guys need to talk about your friendship. How anything you want to talk about? Or?
I remember specifically in 2012. Misty was a parent. I came on the trip with Kyle to New York City, and it was the day that we had won. We were actually loading the bus to come back home. And we were all flying high. We had our second place medals on. We couldn't believe we went from 54th place to second place. And I turned to Misty and I said, "Did you have a good time?" And she grabs my arm, she goes, "I love this. I love everything about it." And she's crying.
We're on the bus. We were like sobbing on the
Yeah.
bus.
Oh my gosh. I'll never forget
We
that
got
moment.
such a deep conversation.
That's when I realized I love this woman.
You're gonna keep her, yeah.
No, both of them. This team means a lot to them, and don't hurt this team because you got
Two mama bears.
that are gonna attack.
Come get ya.
I mean, that's how much love they have for this team. Where it's like one of their children. Is
Right.
what it is.
Yeah.
I mean,
All our kids.
They are.
Yeah.
and I'd love to see that. I mean, and that's why Misty was a no-brainer when Sandra's like, "Well, we're thinking," and I'm like, "I'm fine with it,"
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, it won't be the same without Kyle." And she was like, "You'll be surprised." And it's funny how every year there's just like this group of kids, and when they graduate, it's oh my gosh.
Goodness.
And you always think, okay, I'm going to do this till this group graduates, but then the next group comes in and you keep falling in love with these wonderful kids every year.
They're all different. There's different.
They're all different.
There's different personalities to every year. So it's not
But
like
they're all
the
special
same.
in their own way.
They're not all the same year after year. But there's a personality change of the entire team.
The whole team.
Yeah, from period to period to period.
I'm really excited to see what this new freshman sophomore class is going to do because they're blowing us away right now. Like
They're amazing.
they are so brilliant.
I'm having a hard time because it's like I have juniors or seniors that are really good right now.
Yeah.
And I don't have enough to give.
The freshmen who are
sophomores.
so brilliant.
And I'm trying to keep them,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes they'll come down like, you got too many people.
We're going to be scary good when they become
I
seniors.
don't want to
Oh my gosh.
not have them there and have them just lose interest in
Right.
go away.
I don't know if we've ever had freshmen this brilliant and this active and this involved from day one.
They're amazing.
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder, because this is our first class having done all of our youth programs
Yeah,
that we started, and I'm just
OL,
wondering,
yes,
is that why? Is
Yeah.
that why they're so into it and involved and brilliant?
Well,
at
I
it?
mean, the senior class this year was pretty much like that.
Oh yeah, they were. That's right. Chris started.
Jake,
Yeah,
Chris,
yeah, they did. You're right.
Bauer.
Matus, even Matus was
Matus
right
was
off
a year,
of,
yeah.
but he was right out of the bat.
Yeah.
He was.
But that,
excellent.
that one, this year's senior class was definitely a very, very,
Talented freshman
Yeah.
class. Yeah, it's cool. I'm
Yeah.
excited about what's to come.
Me too.
Busy couple of months we got ahead of us.
Yeah.
Whew,
Yeah.
So much to do. This is my busy time. Actually, during build time
Mhm.
is I relax a little bit. He
Yeah.
goes crazy, but I
Right.
relax.
Yeah.
And then right around, the end of competition, it gets crazy the end of year for me. I mean, Misty too, she helps me with all those end of year activities. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Come on. Yeah.
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 We're gonna have one competition after another though. Hartford,
Oh, I know.
New England, Detroit. They're like one right after another.
That's gonna be busy.
They're gonna be going crazy.
Busy month.
Yeah.
April's gonna be very, very busy.
Yes.
Yeah, but when before we know it, it's the end of the year party. It goes so
I know.
fast. You blink. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
And then we cry over again.
Yeah.
Senior
Oh
year.
my gosh.
It's gonna be a tough class to lose
Oh,
for
it
me.
is.
Yes.
It always is.
For
Is
me,
it ever not tough?
It's true.
I
It's
mean,
true.
come on.
It's never not tough, but
Yeah.
I mean, they're, Jake and I and Chris. It's just
Yeah.
But they won't be fun.
no.
Well, Chris is gonna be really
Chris
fun.
will, yeah. Going forward.
And Bauer, they're just a great group. I mean, it's
Yeah.
And Kaylee.
usually it's just like last year. It was just Nadia and Nadia, right? I'm trying to remember.
On build?
Drive team, you mean?
No.
Matus?
Matus.
Matus wasn't last year, right?
Yeah, he was
the
here
year
last
before.
year.
No, he was last
Natia,
year.
Matus, and then
Okay, yeah.
Mateo,
So
Yeah, there was a big class last year too.
and Dan, right?
Yeah, we had lost a lot of great kids
it
last
was-
year.
Was it 7?
You're
17?
missing Dan. Gina was looking at his messy pit, and he's like, "There's chips everywhere." And I leaned over to him. I'm going, "Missing Dan yet?"
That was strict.
Oh, he kept that pit meticulous.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you have to get to Mohawk.
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank
Well,
you
thank
very
you.
much again.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and
again,
I have a lot of people lining up to
Oh,
do it.
good.
Oh, good.
They love it that
Awesome.
you sit down and watch and then and tell your story.
You
too.
should have
So
Misty watching with us too.
Yeah.
She's been with us the
Yeah,
whole
so
time.
yeah,
I know that.
yeah.
I'm watching you. I had a great time.
Wonderful.
That's some good cake.